So again, welcome back, everyone. Nice to see you all another week. Curious where some people are. We got a big party happening somewhere. Yeah. So we can move on, let's go through the agenda. I think the big thing is talking about meeting. So we've got a newsletter. Okay, sorry, we've got a newsletter coming out soon. So I'm sure Lindsay will appreciate if you guys add your updates and add things to the release or to the newsletter there. Just maybe things about SimPEG, anything you've been using. It's great to show. Second. And then along with that, right, we have our seminar next week. I believe it's on Thursday again. Thursday. The timings, let's see, Thursday at 2 p.m. next week. So we'll hope to see you guys all there. Xiaolong, I believe it's one of your contemporaries that's giving a talk. And the other thing, talk about agenda as far as alternating the meeting times. We set out that link. Hopefully everyone responded. First and third Mondays, or the first and third Wednesdays will be morning time. We'll just settle into that because this is the first Wednesday, so this is a morning time, so let's just settle right into it. Second and fourth will be afternoon times. Lindsay, what did you see from that poll?
It looks like from everyone who's responded, 3 p.m. Pacific works. So maybe just kind of nods or disagreements from folks here. I know, Dieter, that's probably way too late for you. But for most of the folks in North America, does that still work? Excellent, perfect. That seems like we'll give it a try then.
Hey, Joe, can you repeat when is the seminar? You said on the 14th of October? Is that what you said?
Yeah, 14th of October, 2 p.m.
Okay, sounds good. There's a BCGS talk. I guess most people have already seen it, but it's going to be what the hell? I forget his name. MT Net guy.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's giving it at 1 to 2, so that's okay. Managed to somehow good. FYI.
Maybe get a little shout out there, like, hey, if you guys are looking for another seminar, head to this one next.
That's true. Yeah, I am the moderator.
See what else we had. So LCG wrapped up last week. I hope everyone went well for people who had some responsibilities there. Heard about some interesting talks and interesting things. So it's exciting. Always seeing new stuff. Okay, so the other thing about the agenda is what do we do on the 5th Wednesdays when they randomly occur? So we had first and third Wednesdays are being, mornings, second and fourth are afternoons, and then if the 5th one ever happens, is it like party time? You schedule like a
PR a PR hackathon. That's
PR
great.
hackathon on 5th Wednesdays. Sound good? Okay. So then moving on, quick reports from me. I've got a lot of the stuff merged into Discretize. The documentation is in there. The main branch is building properly. I'm gonna pull in a few more of those little tiny changes today soon. Dieter, like what we were talking about on there. I think there's just that small little change that I needed to make on mine, but that makes sense. We'll get that in. And then we should be able to push that out and have the documentation site be live for everyone shortly.
Yeah, looks good to me what you did there. So
okay.
That's fine.
Oh, what else was I up to this week? Oh yeah, we got that Discord. Part of that was like finalizing that Discretize logo. So we get that in there. It was a fun time playing around with Inkscape again, but it looks good. Excited. We'll get those. The next step, I know Devin's not here, but the next step will be updating those. He had a bunch of tutorials that he had written about going through the finite volume implementations in there. So we'll have to update those with relevant information, considering all the information that's now in the doc strings themselves. It's pretty heavy. Like the doc strings are much more explicit than they used to be. So it'll be worth taking a pass back at that and updating them, maybe simplifying them a little bit more, which will be good. Also, my tetrahedral meshes, I've got all the vector interpolations working, tests passing on them, works well. So the only thing that's missing right now, I believe, is a few random averaging matrices and like a cell stencil, like a cell gradient stencil to make sure it works well with inversions. But other than that, it looks pretty decent to me. So it'll be in there shortly. I would probably also have to deal with some input-output functions, but I think that'll come as we're developing with it. As far as reading in other items or other meshes from other softwares. That's about what I've got for quick reports. Thibaut, I see you left. Or are you next on there?
Yeah, sure. So gonna start by thanks Dom and Mike for the feedbacks on the PGI branch and PR at the moment. So with Mike, we were discussing more on bugs he was finding, and I believe that most of them have addressed them. Dom, for your comments, a lot of them I was able to address on the spot. What might need a longer discussion, either in this meeting or maybe at another occasion, it's more a question of a timeline on how we organize things, because you are on your side modifying regularization, but also the sensitivity weight directive to include a volume normalization and stuff like that. So I do admit that at some point I was not sure on how to, we should probably coordinate so that we don't have this PR comes in and assumes this change is going to be made and this change has not been made yet, or you make a change and then we need to revisit again, or maybe that's the best way to do it. I just do that PR on the current state of things and we just iterate. We're just aware that there is this change coming up later, or maybe I can do that change for PGI on your PR later. But just some things that there is things that are interconnected at the moment in those different PRs.
Yeah, my hope was that you would just be able to basically slash PGI and get rid of all the duplication and just keep one, because then when I'm at the time to change regularization, then I'm gonna have less to look at right now.
Okay.
Only keep the one that assumes that sensitivities have volume normalized, and then get rid of the entire simple PGI. Just keep PGI, and then that's it, right? We'll be able to reduce the huge amount of code in that class.
So what are you doing something for simple and Tikhonov? Are you doing something like putting a flag for volume weights that you can turn true or false? Is that something that you putting in?
We are always going to assume that volumes, weights don't have volumes, and then volumes are always going to be multiplied in the regularization, right? So in your PGI, you should have a cell volumes being multiplied somewhere on your cell weights, and then that's just going to be all implemented the same way.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking. If I do that at the moment on my PR, then that means that I'm gonna the regularization on my PR only. Just looking at my branch, it's gonna assume that the regularization is gonna assume there is cell weights, but the sensitivity weighting will not be matching that assumption, and then there will be a discrepancy in the PR itself.
That's fine.
And,
But that's fine. I mean, you can organize your PR that's ready to go, right? And once it's all ready, then we can do a small merge for the cell volumes fix, because there's already a PR ready for this. Then we merge yours, and then I'll continue my work on regularization. So just set up your PR with like only PGI, assuming cell volumes need to be multiplied in, and then we'll do a quick PR ahead of you. That makes sense?
Yeah, no, that could work.
Yeah.
Just thinking also, just thinking also that PGI improvement branch is also fixing the issue of the incompatibility with scikit-learn 1.0. So it's, and we had some people messaging us on Slack about that. So might be one that's like, maybe I can also just take that fix for scikit-learn 1.0 out and just having a small PR just on that. I think that's probably easy to do.
For a quick fix, yeah, that works.
Maybe a good plan, because like if we, like that was what I was wondering, like if we go that route of like merging the different PRs and your work and mine, the DOM, that might just slow down things, and we keep that version incompatibility longer. So
those PRs can happen very quick, Thibault, right? If you do your if you address all these things, we can do it in a week max, right? I mean, we can push it through real fast. We don't need to wait very long. Yeah.
That sounds good. Perfect. Just wanted to mention that. Otherwise, I was looking at the meeting note from last week that I could not attend because of SCG, and I saw that Devon raised the issue of like having the simple regularization fail with when all your active cells in the mesh, when all your cells in your mesh are active. And I actually just ran into that. I was reviving some of that of the notebook we wrote for the camp project with Joe, and I mean, in that project, like we had no topography, so things were fully active, and the simple regularization was failing because of that. So might be some, and it should be it's probably a recent bug. My point is more like it's probably a recent bug because those notebooks were working before. So there is something that happened in between that we haven't catch. Like I can prepare maybe a small example on that. That's something easy to do. And last point, I wanted to do a refresh on time domain EM recently for myself, and like I haven't run some of those inversions for a while. And I was just running in a couple of bottlenecks with SimPEG just because I haven't been working with EM for a while. And yeah, like I realized we don't have the apparent resistivity utils. I found one in PyGimli, so I put that for reference, but that might be a good util to add. I also found the paper where those formulas are from, so I can share that as well. So like maybe something that to put on the radar to put in. And yeah, I was wondering about the state of like SimPEG EM1D and inversion tutorial, because yeah, SimPEG EM1D does the separate repository doesn't seem to be maintained too much. So I got it working, but by having an environment with old version of discretize and SimPEG and so on, like back when I was doing the book printing example with for my own papers. And yeah, like and right now the only example we have on the SimPEG website are like in the gallery with those def run functions. So kind of not a nice notebooks to download, and there is no inversion tutorial on it. So was just wondering. I didn't check the SimPEG EM1D branch right now, but maybe just put that again on the plate of what's happening on that side of things. So yeah, so that's what I've been up to.
Yeah, that's on the radar. It's there. It's just, other things come up. Lindsay, see you next.
Get unmuted here. Thanks, Joe. The one point I'll raise, well, the newsletter, please contribute. I'd like to get that out today or first thing tomorrow morning, so that there's at least a week lead time on the seminar. And especially if you have screenshots of things to include, it's always nice to make it somewhat visual. So if you've got a screenshot to go with your bullet point, that would be great. Then the other thing, and Dieter, feel free to chime in here too. Tuned in with a few folks here, so I know Joe, you were there as well. to the subsurface meeting on Monday morning this week. I'm talking about sort of compatibility between packages in the open source geo ecosystem, subsurface ecosystem. So one of the outcomes was Leo actually wrote a small repository that actually just tests that, you know, we can install a number of packages in the same place. So he's got a simple script making sure that SimPEG, Fatiando, and a few others can all install in the same environment. So that's a good step forward, is that having the software in one place is a good thing. But the other thing that kind of came out of that is that it would be great to start collecting some examples of workflows and use cases where people have used multiple packages in the ecosystem. So Andrea, she gave a great presentation at the geologic modeling SEG workshop on integrating GemPy and PyGimli. Super cool talk. Highly recommend. Well, I guess they weren't recorded, but there should be hopefully a paper coming out at some point with their work, and we can take a look at that. But if you've got other examples like that, make note of them and just chime in on the, I don't know, Dieter, if you have recommendations right now on where to chime in, but just over on the Swan Slack, maybe on the Dev Summit channel, just to start to collect some of these and we can figure out what we're actually going to do with them.
Yeah, basically chime in wherever you feel like. I think we had 3 outcomes. One was these examples you say. If you have cool examples that combine different packages, then please submit them. I'm not sure where to. That's what we also have to define. But yeah, in the channel, just write you have a cool example. The other one was this tests, smoke tests, I think they called them, that we can install as many as possible different packages. And I think that the crucial part there is to have as few pinned dependencies. But I think SimPEG is pretty good on that front, right? You don't really have pinned dependencies. And what was the third one? I can't remember, but yeah, if you're interested in the whole stack in the Dev Summit, there is all the info, and it would be cool if we get it pushing a bit. It might also be something if we have this 5th Wednesday occasionally where we hack off, that we maybe focus on some things there.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah, SimPEG doesn't have too many pin dependencies like that. I mean, I know discretize, we've gotten it down pretty well. SimPEG, I think the biggest thing trying to install now is the dependencies on the older version of scikit-learn from PGI, but that should be fixed right now. Fixed pretty quickly. At least that's the only thing that I know of off the bat. Any other quick reports people would like to, or anything else anyone would like to chat about?
I just had a quick question. I don't know if anybody has ever written a script or played around with trying to take like a diagonal section through a model, or just one that's not orthogonal. I don't know if anybody's encountered that or played around with it.
The easiest way to kind of do it will be to generate a bunch of points on whatever plane you're doing, and then just find whatever cell it's nearest to and get that value.
Or move it to PyVista.
Yeah.
Joe, we actually did that for that 3D DC section for.
Yeah, we did. We had like a profile along the line. Right?
Yeah. So in like I'm not sure exactly whether I think we were not using PyVista, but I think in ParaView you could actually if you draw a profile line and then it actually provides the section. So yeah, I think it's probably better, right?
Yeah. No, I have been playing around with using ParaView too. I just I don't know. I like the control that we have over some of our section plotting. Yeah. Okay.
Well, then, then just interpolate and visualize.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, if it's on tree mesh, it's pretty easy, right, Mike? You just use the in cell, find index in cell. I can never remember the what is it, Joe?
0.2 index.
0.2 index, yeah. So you could do like a grid CC of your all your points on the plane, and then you ask for point and cell, and then I will return the indices of all the cells, and then you just use can use Matplotlib to show it.
We'll see. Maybe if I get ambitious here, I can write up a little function for it.
Yeah.
Get it in somewhere.
I was going down the DC rabbit hole, and then you saw Joe. I pinged you, and thanks for that for pointing that issue. So
There's
I
multiple
will.
issues made on that.
Yeah, so I'll test on my side, and then if it works for a while, then I'll create a PR for it. But that's a heads up for John, right? So the currently the drape topo DC, right? Drape electrode to topo. It moves the XY location of your electrodes to go to cell center. So instead of just dropping the electrode down, it actually moves the XY to cell center. So that can be quite induce quite an error in your simulation.
Is that just for like all meshes or?
Oh, I know for tree mesh only. For tree mesh only.
Oh, okay, yeah. So maybe that's the problem that we're having with the tree mesh. Why I
Most
can't.
likely.
Yeah.
So it'll only make a difference on the cell center. It won't make a difference on the cell-centered DC and system for tree mesh, because that interpolation is like nearest anyway. So it's not going to make a difference.
But I'm using nodal most of the time.
Yeah. The nodal one will make a difference.
Since it's not working for Octree yet, right? Joe, did you actually kind of updated the Octree for boundary conditions and stuff?
Yeah, it works.
Oh, okay. So it actually used the mixed boundary condition and now?
Yep.
Perfect.
And it does, yeah, I'm on nodal, and for the reason that Sagi just mentioned, it used to not work on tree mesh, so I'm on nodal, and I was, yeah, it was getting me some weird behaviors there, so.
Yeah. Did you?
There's really no reason. Why the heck did we decide to move the XY? I really don't understand. Like,
I don't. I think it was easier at some point, but.
Yeah.
Anyway, did you did you get the sketch of what I was imagining, like how to do this?
Well, that would be a nice cleanup. I will definitely implement it. But for now, I was just reusing the points. So like the variable is still in the function. I just need to reuse the PTS instead of moving the XY. But yeah, I totally follow what you're saying. It'll be a lot cleaner and faster.
I think it's. I'm not sure if it's faster, but it'll be more accurate, because even using like a KD tree on the like to find that point, if it happens to be like level changes, it'll grab the one on the wrong side.
Totally. Absolutely. Is it KD tree? I'll have to dive deeper, but yeah. Anyway, we don't need to do it regardless. We just need to drop the Z.
Yeah.
That's cool. If we have an issue, I'll do it later.
What is the status of the MT or natural source stuff?
I'm just well, the first round of it, I've just got to get the code cov stuff done, and then it's passing all the other tests. I just got to get some more code coverage, and I'll be able to pull in the first part. The tiled MT stuff, that'll still be a while. I still have to work on the passing tests for the tiled contribution to that one. So yeah, the speed will take some time, but the new implementation of the MT being worked in with the frequency domain, yeah, I should be able to get to that soon. I just I've been busy with a couple projects the last little bit.
Cool. It was just this event that was 2 weeks ago. I think mod EM still seems very predominant in the MT community, and it would be cool to to do some SimPEG examples and try how it works.
Yeah, I'm trying to get there. Maybe another month per se. Like I'm working on a CSAMT project right now. That's kind of consuming me quite a bit here on the processing side.
No problem.
Yeah.
It actually reminds me of something that Dom brought up, I think a few months ago. Also the same issue, or what Thibaut said today about the time domain. Once we talked about having like a priority list or something, right? Like what do we want to get in until the next point release? What do we want to get in until the next big release? Things like this. I think we had it together with the governance discussion, but is there something going on and I miss it, or we stopped?
No, I should probably get that started. I think that falls under my responsibilities for the governance thing, from what I remember.
I think that's something we should start sort of collectively, but let's, we can chat about sort of a structure for that, of kind of maybe thinking, you know, like about a couple of different timelines. So, you know, what is the next release? So what are we working on in the next couple of months? What is the next year? And so forth. But maybe to actually kind of kick that off, we could even get a quick document going for now of like, what are folks' priorities here for the next month, couple months. And just for people who are sort of actively working on different pieces of SimPEG, if you're not sure, that's like totally fine. You don't feel obliged to sort of put something down if you don't have items. But if even from everyone here, we had a good sense of like, here are my 3 priorities for the next 2 months, that would be useful.
Where do you want to do this?
Let's start a Google Doc. Does that work for folks? Okay, I will get that going.
I think it could be great because there are things like I have not been involved at all, and I guess others too, for instance, the MT, but if it's at the stage to test, I would be really interested in checking these things out, and that might apply equally well for other stuff. Thanks.
Yeah, speaking of priorities, so Thibaut, we were just talking about small PR to fix scikit-learn, right? So right now, looking at the PRs that Devon just created, and they're all failing on it because of it. So if we could do this in priority, that'd be fantastic, because we can't merge anything until this is done.
Yeah, I will try to get to create a PR that's separate and just fix that thing. That should not be too complicated. If I've not done it by tomorrow, like today is kind of super busy, but like if I've not done it by tomorrow evening, just poke me. Okay.
I just dropped a Google Doc link in the Slack. And I'll drop it in the notes too.
So maybe the about the Dev Summit of bringing the community together. The third point I couldn't remember was the service package. And actually, Joe, you worked on that with Discretize, right? At what stage was that at the end of the hackathon? Is there a lot missing or?
Too much further. I remember I'd raised that issue about like, okay, what is, like there was something that was like not necessary. Like it was, you know, we were talking about what is the actual format that it was, the subsurface is, and it was very ambiguous. And I don't know if anything ever came from that. Like I brought it up and I thought I did, like I made a few mentions. I don't think anybody like made much of a.
Yeah, I should check up on that. Did Andrea in her tutorial, did she, I think she used subsurface, right? She mentioned.
Yeah, she wasn't using SimPEG or anything. I believe she was using PyGimli and.
Yeah, to go through from PyGimli to GeoSci back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah. At least we can get the tetrally like simplex tetrahedral meshes, those are pretty clear on what is what. So that should be translated.
Yes, and then we could already do some cool examples going back and forth with PyGimli and discretize SimPEG.
Yeah.
Nothing. I feel pretty bad about I'm not really working on anything about SimPEG, but I really hope actually to set some time and go back to work. I participated that image workshop, and it was just a post-convention workshop, and the title was the sustainable, geophysics for sustainable cities. This is something that I haven't really thought about. And somehow I was asked to give a talk about the groundwater component of the sustainable city. And the conference was actually, the workshop was quite interesting. A lot of them were related to seismic. So I think I can clearly see this passive seismic monitoring network. They are really expanding the realm to kind of near surface geophysics, not necessarily petroleum focus. So it was interesting to see. And then people are quite excited about using electromagnetics. And some of the question that I've got was, can we actually use it in the urban setup? And I said, no, we cannot really use it. But that seems an open question. And I don't know, I was just kind of, I thought thinking about the sustainable city in how you use the geophysics, that seems like a pretty big chunk of pie. And people are really interested in that kind of avenue. So other avenue is actually critical earth minerals, because to sustain the city development, you actually do need to have a lot of metals and the rare earth minerals and the types of stuff. So that was another topic, and the geothermal development in kind of for generating small powers for homes. And some of them were using geophysics as well. So I don't know, not kind of typical topic that we deal with, but I thought that's quite interesting. And
I think one topic with the sustainable city that comes up every now and then with geophysics is the urban mining, right?
Yeah, urban mining, it's a bit, I don't know how, because I think the major idea is that geochemistry, because the idea is if you got old cell phone, then how do you kind of reuse that cell phone to you can actually extract the gold from cell phone or something like that. I thought that's the general idea of urban. But I think the city has lots of other problems, like sinkholes, that types of things. And they are generally thinking about kind of having a monitoring system in the city, and also want to monitor the subsurface part. So I think there is a lot of role, I guess, but we just don't know how to do it. But it seems an interesting avenue.
Just on that note, so I think I remember a talk either by Dick Won or one of his students, and he did something with monitoring, I believe, for sinkhole with DC systems. I would just be hooked to the power grid and will just take data regularly.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, so nothing particular. Speaking of that airborne SimPEG 1D stuff, I am planning to come back and want to get this done, given there are actually quite a bit of excitement in here. People are actually starting to use actually that branch, Joe. Some of them actually started to use that without too much instructions. They're jumping in and figuring out by themselves. So it'll be better.
But it's working for them?
I think so. I think so in general. I think it's mostly working. So it's actually pretty good. So probably may not need to do it. They may do it by themselves. Anyway, so it's exciting time. Actually, they are flying the airborne survey in California. So they just started a couple months ago, and they finished it a couple 1,000-kilometer lines. So yeah, I think they are planning to open the data for every 6 months after the acquisition. So it's pretty quick turnout, and actually still open question how the data will be used for local water agencies for kind of helping their groundwater plan. So there are a lot of works to do and open question and opportunities. Yes, I just saying that there are like a lot of opportunity, but I'm not sure how it was going to play a big role. I'm just saying like these crews are quite relevant to help solve those problems.
Well, exciting. Hopefully the data will be able to play around with it soon. If there's anything else, no, not hearing any complaints, we'll call it a week and we'll see you next week in the afternoon on Wednesday.
Have a good one.